Ricciardo goes for it from a long way back. This would be sensational if he makes it. And do you know what? He has made it. Smiles will be out at 18 years and 227 days old. Max Verstappen wins a Formula One Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton wins the Portuguese Grand Prix. Hamilton has more wins than any other driver in Formula One history. And he is not done yet.
Welcome to Getting a Grip F2 and F3, powered by the Inner Sanctum. I'm joined by Ali and Jackie, and we are back to cover the recent news in the driver development formulas. We'll start with Oscar Piastri winning the Jack Brabham Award. Jackie, do you want to let us know the basic history of it, and we'll have a chat about that?
Yeah, so the award's named after Sir Jack Brabham, who is an F1 legend as far as Australia goes. Won 3 World Championships, F1 World Championships. The most notable one being 1966, where he won with one of his own cars, and he's the first and only driver to ever do that. It's primarily for recognizing outstanding achievement in motorsport in international competition. So we've had the likes of Webber and Ricciardo from Formula One, winning it. And there's been quite a few others in rally cars. So Oscar, I believe, is the 11th recipient of the award. And it's great recognition for his winning Formula 3 last year.
That's it. His racing for Prema was excellent. And I think that it's a good sign considering where he obviously is racing in F2 this year. So even him just winning that award, it kind of solidifies how he's performed. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. What do you think on that one, Ali?
Yeah, I think it's awesome recognition. It caps off a great season, although it's 2021 now, but it's capped off a great season after him winning the F3 championship. So yeah, looking forward to seeing what he can bring to F2 this season.
That's it. It'll be interesting. So we'll run through the list of Formula 2 drivers that have been confirmed. So for Prema Racing, we've obviously got Robert Schwartzman and Oscar Piastri. Uni Virtuoso has Filip Drogovic. Carlin Racing has Jehan Daruvala. High Tech GP has Liam Lawson and Yuri Vips. MP Motorsport has Liram Zindali. Dams has obviously Marcus Armstrong. Campos Racing has Ralph Bashung. And HWA Race Lab has Matteo Nannini and Alessio Deleda. Sorry, hopefully I haven't butchered those names too much. I looked them up a fair bit, but yeah. So which drivers are we looking to see perform in Formula 2? Obviously, there are some big names. There's some names that have been there previously. Do we have any new names that we think will carry across?
He's not necessarily a new name because he has, I think last season he was in 8 races total, but I'd like to see Yuri Vips perform well again and see where he can go from last season. Yes, that's...
Yeah,
he had an interesting... Sorry.
You go, Ali. Right. You go.
Yeah, he had an interesting season and quite, a difficult one. So hopefully this year he can really show what he's made of. And obviously Liam Lawson is a good teammate to have there. So hopefully they'll be able to rebound off each other a little bit. Not literally.
Yeah, and Liam Lawson was in my list of who you'd like to see perform as well. It's always good to see the Aussies and the Kiwis getting up there. And he has a decent record, so you'd like to see him improve and show that he's got the stuff to eventually move up to F1 as well.
I'm looking forward to seeing Marcus Armstrong, like you guys said. It's great to see the Kiwi talent doing well, I guess. And obviously he's a highly rated talent, especially by his new racing team in Dams, because they've been following his progression for quite some time. And the move's been, I believe, a while in the making. And although we didn't have a great season, I think he finished around 16th last year. I'm just looking forward to seeing him in a new car and in a new team. Looking forward to see what he can do.
That's it. And Dams has somewhat fallen from grace, especially last year. He had a disappointing season. So hopefully if they can get some good drivers in those cars, and Marcus Armstrong obviously has skill, but hopefully they can bring them back, because I'm sure everyone was disappointed last year with how they ended up performing. But yeah, I guess we'll see what happens. Is there anyone else that anyone thinks to keep an eye on? Obviously, we talked about Liam Lawson a little bit there, who performed really well in Formula 3.
I'd say Filippo Drugovich is one to be looking out for. In previous years, he's done quite well, especially against Piastri. I believe it might have been in one of the F4 championships. He ended up beating him, to Piastri coming second. And that's an impressive note to have on your resume, is to say that this up-and-coming kid is also someone that I've been a contender with. But he obviously didn't have the best season last season. Let me just pull it up. So last year in the F3, he obviously finished, F2, he finished 9th, and then he finished 16th in the F3. So you'd be looking to see him getting back up the ranks rather than continuing to stagnate. Yeah,
exactly. And kind of segueing into F2 and F3, and Nannini, who's racing for HWA Race Lab, he's also competing in Formula 3. So what do we think about that? Obviously, there'll be a conflict, and in certain weekends he'll have to choose, I would assume, F2 over F3. Do we think that he'll have difficulty juggling the commitments, or do you think it'll be fine for him? Might be good experience.
It's a massive ask. I think I was reading he'll have 45 starts next season, potentially, which that's big on anyone, especially considering you're doing F2 and F3 rather than having starts in a couple of different F3 cars. I think that it says a lot about what they're wanting from him and what they're expecting from him. Hawes, I believe, said that this was all about his growth and wanting to push him further. But it also goes at the same time, he could be sacrificing an F3 championship to perform middle of the road in the F2. So what do you want on your resume big time will push you further in your career?
And that's the thing too. Racing in the lower formulas, so Formula 3 and Formula 2, it ends up being expensive for the driver. You're not getting paid until you're in Formula 1, really. So he must see this as an opportunity. It's the only way that you would be involved in both of the formulas at once. So I guess he's just looking to get as much experience as he can. But yeah, I would agree with you. I think that this will probably stretch him out, and we know what the double headers and everything were like last year. So 45 starts would be an insane number of starts for a racer. So yeah, I think he's got to be really careful with how he handles it. But what did you think, Ali?
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I don't know if it's been done before in the past, but I was reading that due to COVID, they've cut F2 down to around 8 events. So it's interesting to see if him juggling both of them is more experience on that front, that there'll be less races across the board. So maybe him juggling 2 is more experience that way. But yeah, he's got to be careful because he doesn't want to burn himself out.
And if this does succeed, then he can show that he can perform like this under pressure. He can handle the situations that he needs to, and maybe that'll be something that a Formula 1 team who's looking for someone who's resilient will look at. But I guess we'll wait and see. I think we'll know fairly quickly or midway into the season how he's handling it. But good luck to him, because if it pays off, it'll be really good for him. So we'll move on to Formula 3 and the confirmed drivers for them. Ali, do you want to take us through the list that we've got so far?
Yeah, so for Prima Racing, we have Horger, Leclerc and Caldwell. Trident's team is yet to be confirmed. So for Art Grand Prix, we have Vesti and Smola. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing those. I apologise. In high tech, we have Crawford, Iwasa, and Santec. In Race Lab, we have, as mentioned before, we've got Nannini. So for MP Motorsport and Campos Racing, they have yet to confirm their drivers. And for Carlin, we have Johnny Edgar.
So we're looking at some interesting names there. Obviously, this is the big ones like Leclerc and such. But hopefully we can see some of them cut through the field. It's a little bit hard with Formula 3 sometimes because you have so many drivers on the field, and it's hard to tell which ones are going to come through and breach into Formula 2. Does anyone have any thoughts on them at all, or are we still waiting to see?
I mean, the obvious breach into Formula 2 is going to be Leclerc. His previous record alone just stands up. And the Ferrari Academy nod also means that you'd expect him to be ending up going into F2, which we've already talked about Leclerc and what we think of him. I believe Somalia I'd expect him to do all right. I don't necessarily know if he will. He had 11th last season. You'd hope that he'd improve, but we also don't know. There's over 10 people still yet to be confirmed, so we don't know what's going to end up happening with this list.
That's it. And I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Like you're saying, I'm hoping that Dennis Horger does well as well, but racing against Leclerc, I think hopefully it doesn't intimidate you, but it puts you under pressure, and hopefully he'll shine through that. But we'll know in the coming weeks. Obviously, there's more drivers in the Formula 3 lineup. We'll know in the coming weeks who else is going to be confirmed and what kind of competition everyone has. And I think we'll talk about that a little bit more in the future. So speaking of the Ferrari Driver Academy, Maya Weug has been assigned into them after winning following a win at Girls on Track. So obviously it's really exciting. She's the first female driver to earn a spot in the Ferrari Driver Academy, and it brings an excellent look, and she's obviously worked so hard to get there. So what do we think this means for both her, but also women within racing, knowing that Ferrari's very selective with who they bring into their fold, I guess. So what do we think there?
Of course, it's awesome news, both for her and for women in motorsport. The big thing would be what their plans are for her in the end, as to whether it's a push into the W Series or if it's a let's get a third ever female driver in the F1, which we haven't seen since I think the year was 1976 with Lombardi. I don't necessarily expect anything like either way. I think that it's an excellent promotion for her. She's only young, so you don't know what could happen in the next 4 or 5 years. But in the end, it's fabulous news for her. Ferrari then putting stock in more girls, hopefully in the future, as well as other academies looking to bring up drivers, especially in the female forms of racing. And we don't know what it will do for the W Series as far as it being turned from a Formula 3 into more of a Formula 1 style series in the not near future by any means, but in 10, 15 years down the line.
Yeah, I think it's a massive nod with Ferrari being very hard and exclusive to get into. It's a major achievement and almost a nod to the women in motorsport, just overall the fact that Ferrari are looking to bring more females into the program, and she's only 16, which is to get that massive nod at the age of 16 is just massive. And so with the calibre of drivers such as like Charles Leclerc coming out of the Ferrari program, I think her future's definitely looking bright if she's planning to move to Formula 1 or she's planning to go into the W Series or even another program like Indy. It's definitely going to be great to see in the future.
Exactly. And even if this just springboards her into something, so you could see her going into, I'm not sure if she's interested, but Le Mans or something like that. that's so renowned. It would be excellent to see her, regardless of where she goes after this. But if we could see her in Formula One, it would be excellent. I think that's all we've got time for tonight. Thank you for joining us today on Getting a Group F2 and F3, which is powered by the Inner Sanctum. Head over to our Twitter and Instagram pages, as well as Inner Sanctums, to stay up to date with our current content.
Ricciardo goes for it from a long way back. This would be sensational if he makes it. And you know what? He has made it. Smiles will be out at 18 years and 227 days old. Max Verstappen wins a Formula One Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton wins the Portuguese Grand Prix. Hamilton has more wins than any other driver in Formula One history, and he is not done